Today, what I want to explore with you is the idea of serving God. And I think all sorts of images can be conjured up into our mind when we think about serving God, or maybe when I say serving God, you're thinking about going on a mission over to Africa. But it's so much more basic than that. And until we get the fundamental concept and practice of serving God down in our daily life, we're never going to be able to go on and successfully serve God in some of those higher capacities that maybe your mind automatically goes to. And so really what we want to talk about for serving is the genesis of it. And we go back to the book of Genesis, right? Genesis means beginning. And in the beginning, God created absolutely everything. The heavens, the earth, he created the animals, the plants, the fish, the birds, everything. And he said it was very good. And then he created this space and he called it the garden. And in the garden, he put Adam and Eve. And Adam's job in that garden was to tend it and to keep it. In other words, his job was to steward it according to how God told him to do that. He was supposed to take care of this resource that God had given him, and he was supposed to do it according to the way that God said it should be done. And when we think about maintaining something, when we think about taking care of something, often think about it in the context of maybe a truck. We look to the manufacturer's specifications and they say, we need to change the oil every so often. We need to change the fuel filter. You need to keep your tires at a certain pressure. Otherwise, major damage can occur that can compromise the integrity of the entire vehicle, right? And so we maintain it according to the manufacturer's specifications. And within our lives, God has specifications. He's the one who created us. He is the one who created marriage. He's the one who created children. He is the one who created labor and work and good works to do. And he has specifications for how we ought to maintain those things and invest in them and take care of them. So at the heart of serving God is this idea of tending to the things that God has given you. First, he's given you your life and your relationship with him. And that is the primary focus of serving God, is that we have to first be in relationship with him. We have to be investing in our relationship with him. We have to be spending time in the word of God. But what that flows into, though, is the rest of the things that God has put in our sphere of influence, or the things that we are to take care of, to tend to. If you're married, we're to tend to our spouse, and we do it according to the word of God. If you have children, you're to raise them up in the fear of the Lord. You're to teach them when they're young the way that they should go, so that when they're old, they will not depart from it. When it comes to our job, God calls us to do it heartily and work heartily and do it with our might as unto the Lord and not unto men. And when it comes to the church, in the church, we are to use our spiritual gift that God has given us, and we are to invest it in the church. And that's what this section of the first mile is all about, is really helping you to get a hold of what it means and practical ways to serve God in those primary relationships. Because when you're walking tightly with the Lord, as we learned last week, and we're abiding with him and studying his word and spending time in prayer and just spending time being with God, and then you're stewarding your wife well and your children well, and you're serving in your church well, all of a sudden God's going to start adding to you. It says in the word of God that he who's been faithful in little will be given much. And so the reality is as we nail these principal things, these basic elementary areas that God has given to most of us to steward, that he will add more on top of that. And so I really want to encourage you this week, as you go through this section in the first mile on serving God, to really engage every area. And so if you have a wife, if you have children, if you have a job, and if you're plugged into a church, I really want you to dive into those and from the word of God, gain your instruction, because the word of God is like our maintenance manual for a truck, right? He teaches us everything. We looked at the other week, in 2 Timothy chapter 3, verses 16 and 17, that the word of God will make us thoroughly equipped for every good work. And so when we talk about tending and keeping these things in our life, we need to go to the word of God, and we need to develop good practices for taking care of things according to God's plan for them. So this week, as you go through this section in the first mile, take time to do the powerful practices. Take time to engage them. Even if they seem silly, even if they seem scary, even if they seem like they might be even irrelevant, I want to encourage you to do them and watch how God blesses these different relationships that you are responsible for as you continue and persevere in doing what God has called you to do.